Jedi surprised audiences with its imaginative scope, both large and small. It introduced a tiny but valiant new ally to the rebellion, a race of pint-sized warriors known as Ewoks.
And action.
Hey, point that thing someplace else.
Hey! Don't. It'll be all right.
Joining the cast was Warwick Davis, who was just a youngster at the time, but also a die-hard Star Wars fan.
I was an 11-year-old boy at school, and my grandmother happened to hear a radio commercial on the London radio station, and they were putting out a call for short people to be in this new Star Wars movie. I don't think anybody on the movie was quite as excited as I was. You know, being an 11-year-old on a Star Wars set, there was no stopping me.
In the role of Wicket, Davis became the film's most prominently featured Ewok. But only after Kenny Baker was suddenly taken ill.
I had this scene with Carrie and the speeder bikes in California, in the Redwoods. And I was looking forward to this. I thought, well, no, Carrie's nice. I like working with Carrie.
Come the morning of the shoot, Kenny was very ill in bed with what I believe was food poisoning.
I was seriously in pain. And said, well, we've got to do it because we've got Carrie Fisher in and we've got the scene set up. So Warwick took over.
72A, take 2. A and B camera, don't forget.
And they called me in to play the scene instead.
Action.
Cut it out!
I had a dog at the time, and I remember whenever he would hear a strange noise, he would tilt his head from side to side to look inquisitive, and I took those kind of movements and used them in the character. So whenever he sees something or hears a strange sound, he would, you know, tilt his head.
115S, take 3. A camera mark. Mark.
What did he say? Ewok!
He says, look out!
I like Ewoks. And I think they're in there to really show that you don't need technology, you need the will and the belief to take you through anything. And the fact that, you know, the Ewoks were able to defeat the Empire only using ropes and rocks, I think that said something about them as a race of creatures.
Fighters coming in.
It doesn't matter how much machinery you have. If the will of the people is strong, they will always win.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
And action.
As filming on Revenge of the Jedi drew closer to completion, emotions ran high. And saying goodbye would be difficult.
As we were finishing the third one, we really had the sense of it was the end, that they were going to tie up all the loose ends, and there was a kind of clearing your locker out at the end of the semester feel to it all. So part of me was saying, oh, I'm so glad to put this behind me. And the other aspect was, well, what about all the adventures that Luke could have?
For the moment, George Lucas was totally focused on completing his epic trilogy. He weighed every decision, including a change in Jedi's title just weeks before it opened.
Just before it got to the theaters, George came back and he said, I want to go back to Return of the Jedi. Now, the logic behind that was a Jedi does not take revenge.
Return of the Jedi opened on Wednesday, May 25th, 1983, exactly 6 years from the day that Star Wars made its debut. On its first day, the film took in $6.2 million, making it the biggest opening day box office in history by nearly $1 million.
Told you they'd do it.
But for George Lucas, completing the trilogy involved personal sacrifice. The success of Jedi would be bittersweet at best.
The challenge is always trying to do something that's all-consuming with having a private life. And I had made the decision after Star Wars that I had certain goals in my private life. One was to be independent of Hollywood. The other one ultimately was to have a family. I finished Return of the Jedi. I figured that was the end of it for me. I figured, well, I've done it. I finished my trilogy. This is what I started out to do. This is what I was determined to get finished. And, it was overwhelming and difficult. But fate has a way of stepping in. I ended up getting divorced right as the film Jedi was finished. And I was left to raise my daughter.
With the profits he made from the Star Wars movies and merchandise, George Lucas was able to keep funding his dream of pushing the boundaries of film and audio technology. For the next 2 decades, he continued to create new and exciting innovations, and in the process, he fundamentally changed filmmaking for the better. In 1984, Lucasfilm revolutionized motion picture editing with Editroid and Soundroid, the world's first non-linear digital editing systems. For the first time, filmmakers could instantly access any frame or audio track at the touch of a button. In 1985, Lucasfilm's computer division invented the Pixar computer, helping generate a new form of animation characterized by three-dimensional realism. The division was later sold and became Pixar Animation Studios, the creator of such instant classics as Toy Story. The digital breakthroughs that Lucas himself had ushered in would eventually lead him back full circle to Star Wars. In 1993, after helping create ILM's groundbreaking effects in Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park, Lucas concluded that digital technology had finally caught up to his original vision. In 1997, he would revisit and perfect his galactic saga at last, with the Star Wars Trilogy Special Edition.
For an entire generation, people have experienced Star Wars the only way it's been possible, on the TV screen. But if you've only seen it this way, you haven't seen it at all.
Things I couldn't afford to do at the time, things that I had to give up on because I just didn't have the time or money or the power to do it. I was able to go in, complete the films the way I originally intended them to be, and have it be pretty much the way I want them to be.
In 1999, 22 years after the original premiere, Lucas introduced Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. The film marked the beginning of another trilogy for a new generation. It also allowed Lucas to continue his pioneering use of digital technology.
I'm finishing this for the love of Star Wars. I like Star Wars. I want to see the whole thing finished.
For more than 3 decades, George Lucas's passion and dedication to the Star Wars saga has brought its share of rewards. But like the Force itself, success also has its dark side.
What I was trying to do is stay independent so I could make the movies I wanted to make. But at the same time, I was sort of fighting the corporate system, which I didn't like. And I'm not happy with the fact that corporations have taken over the film industry. But now I found myself being the head of a corporation. So there's a certain irony there, is that I have become the very thing that I was trying to avoid, which is basically what part of Star Wars is about.
The circle is now complete. When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
That is Darth Vader. He becomes the very thing that he's trying to protect himself against. But at the same time, I feel good that I'm able to make my movies the way I want them to be.
While George Lucas has remained true to his own vision, it's been audiences everywhere who've reaped the rewards ever since May 1977, when moviegoers first caught sight of that galaxy far, far away.
The themes that George is dealing with are so strong, so primordial. The conflicts between children and their parents. Luke Skywalker was George growing up, George facing conflict and the need to prove himself.
You have learned much, young one.
And he did, powerfully.
You'll find I'm full of surprises.
George was somehow able to put the good guys and the bad guys and the mythology in a package that somehow touched us. I don't know how. I guess if you know how, everybody would be doing it.
Do or do not. There is no try.
I am so pleased to be a part of that whole legend, even as an observer, and I am just an observer.
Most impressive.
He's created people that everyone in the world knows. Any author that could create such memorable characters would be a very happy person indeed.
Laugh it up, fuzzball.
He really established the independent film market. His films changed epic productions. He changed storytelling. He created what Hollywood is today.
I'm out of it for a little while. Everybody gets delusions of grandeur.
George was creating a new world for Hollywood, and we were lucky enough to be a part of it.
Come on! He's not just the creator and director. Now he is the studio. He can make exactly the movie that he wants to make.
Obi-Wan has taught you well.
One of the things that George Lucas has done in Star Wars is to communicate, in fact, with the younger self that resides somewhere inside even the oldest person.
Good shot, Red 2.
I think our cultural imagination has been transformed by Lucas's films, by taking us back to stories that make us all feel that we share in the heroic journey of the human species on this earth.
The Force will be with you, always.
George Lucas moved us into a new place in space, a new time in the future, which no one else had created up to that time. Star Wars had a tremendous impact on the young people, as well as adults for that matter.
I committed myself to making these movies. I believe in these movies. I think they're very entertaining, and I think if I can get a room full of people and they enjoy it, then I've done whatever I hope to do.
For George Lucas, what began as a quest for creative freedom became a philosophy, a cultural phenomenon, and an empire of dreams.